Welcome to Diversity Conversations, where we engage in thought-provoking dialogue to identify leadership solutions to today's most challenging conflicts. Stream live each week, Saturday 9:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. Hosted by Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategist and CEOs Eric Ellis and Tommy Lewis. Join us and add your voice to this engaging diversity conversation.
Good morning, Greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, the United States, and the world. My name is Eric Ellis, and I'm the president and CEO of Integrity Development Corporation, and I'm joined this morning by my good friend and brother,
Tommy Lewis, president and CEO of Make It Plain Consulting. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning, Tommy. How you doing, man?
Doing well, Eric. Full transparency, I am doing great. Business and family's doing great, but I'm a little bit tired. It's been a long week. A long good week. But I'm learning with the fall as the seasons are changing, the daylight hours are shrinking, the weekends seem shorter and shorter. I'm learning that the moments of the weekend are precious. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not going to excuse my tiredness to give away the weekend. I'll still be doing things, but the weekends come so quickly and then they're gone. And then I'm in the grind of the week, but I'm glad to be here as always with you and our community.
Same here. And I appreciate that transparency as always. The reality is that Tommy Lewis and Eric Ellis love what we do. We love it. But the reality is that even though you might love something, that doesn't stop you from being worn out by that same thing.
Yeah.
When you care deeply, you're not just doing the work, but you are emotionally connected to that work that you're doing. We are constantly being judged by people, and the grades that we get determine the tenure that you'll have with those clients. And unlike many other people, almost anybody can snipe you.
Yeah.
In an organization that we work with. It doesn't matter. If anybody says that somehow they didn't like you or something you said, that could be something that could cost you a contract. So you're constantly working through that. And then you're dealing with all of the research that you have to do and the world that we're living in. And sometimes, Tommy, it all feels like it's interconnected.
Yeah.
Like we're not just doing our work in a vacuum.
Right.
Our work is being influenced by what's happening in the presidential race and what's happening in America and what's happening around the world. All of those are things that are tangentially, if you would, connected to the work that we do, man. And it is, honestly, it is exhausting. And when you said I'm tired, I jump right in there and say, man, me too.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, Eric. It can turn into, at times, a bit of a tidal wave. So you have the waters recede from the shore, and then they start to swell into the mass body of water, and then it returns to the shore. And as that wave comes up, sometimes that wave is carrying us into kind of the next opportunity. It's carrying us for that time of that contract or that partnership with the partner. And then sometimes that wave turns over and crashes, right? And when you're riding the wave, right? And that's a great book by Franz Tropenauer. It's called Riding the Waves of Culture. When you're riding the wave, you're understanding the wave, etc. But then you have to, at times, get out of that wave before it turns over and crashes.
Right.
Right. And sometimes we're good at surfing, and sometimes we're not, Eric. Right. You got the GoPro in front.
Right. I'm not sure my friends. Right. Look at me.
Everybody on the shore.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. Flip my stance.
Yep. And you can feel the water ocean water and big lake water, it's
Right.
heavy.
Right.
It's heavy.
Right.
And so we love the waves. We love the chance to, in some cases, create waves, create some disruption. Because when you have water turning over time and time again, Eric, it's really replenishing itself. So the water is never the same. It's never stagnant and or stale.
Right.
And what we do is try to keep things fresh. And we I invite our community to do the same thing. Keep things fresh in your work relationships, your personal and romantic relationships, wherever possible, and friendships, family ships. Try to keep things fresh.
That's a good word. Tell me, how was your week, man?
One thing I wanted to call out for this week, had the opportunity to visit our client again in Colorado this week. And prior to the visit, my contact had informed me that there was a neighboring school district that was going to send a contingent of folks up to kind of observe the training that I was going to do with them, the session. And I have no problems with that at all. And I don't actually control it. I actually invite it. And so went out to Colorado, had a phenomenal 2-hour session. It's a coalition. We have some breakouts. And the neighboring school district, their representatives were there. And they pulled my ear about an hour, hour and a half after the session. And they shared with me that they loved what I did and how I was doing it and facilitating the conversation. And they shared their issues, their concerns. Eric, it's been a long time since I've heard of a real systemic problem that individuals want to solve. This is the highest level of tribalism, whatever normalism is, right? What we have is normal. We want nothing different. We don't want different people. We don't want different thoughts. We don't want different ideas.
Right.
We don't even want a different future. We are okay with the status quo. It's been a long time since I've seen that.
Right.
I mean, I've engaged with organizations that say,
Right.
you know, we know that the status quo exists, but we want to get better.
Right.
This organization, for the most part, is saying it's not broken. We don't want to fix anything at all. That's from the 90% of the dominant culture. The 10% saying this is a living hell. And so they asked, are you willing to help us address our living experience?
Right.
I said, tell me more. Took about an hour and a half. They unpacked it. I said, I can do that, right? Not that I can solve everything, but I can put myself in the position to begin to help facilitate a new and better reality. It is a challenge that I've been looking for, and a challenge that I may not have to be fully committed, meaning they want to move in increments, and I'm okay with it. But I had to pray on it a little bit.
Yeah.
And so my week
That's right.
And that's the part of the exhausting piece of where I am right now.
Yeah.
That on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I was really in prayer. I was really in thought around every opportunity is not a good opportunity. All money is not good money. But this is an opportunity that they told me, some other folks said, can't do, won't do.
Right.
I said, okay, wait till you get a load of me, the old Joker from Batman series. And again, not going in to solve everything, but really leaning to you, Eric. This podcast and our community, I'm serious here, really throwing out some questions that I would need answers to. Right? I want to utilize the thought leadership of our community to help us go to the next step. That was a long explanation. That was the weight of my week that showed up today.
So I enjoyed you the other day, really talking about being moved and in the presence of the Holy Spirit. I would say to you that what makes each of us different, Tom and I do the same thing, but we're also very different. is that my initial thought was consistent with a lot of the other firms that says thanks but no thanks.
Yeah.
If you got a 90% that's happy with the status quo, they're the dominant culture. Why are we having a conversation?
Right.
In other words, just going. And now I often change when I get there because I've never heard anybody that clearly say that. So I've never heard anybody sort of verbalize we comfortable with the status quo.
Yeah.
So whoa, that's something right there. But I know that you are uniquely gifted to hear that and to see the alternatives that are available for them.
Yeah.
And so that's why you can't listen to everything with your ears. You have to listen sometimes with your spirit.
Yes, sir.
And it feels like your spirit was saying, I think I can help. And I think that's the real, and that's what I would say to the community is never try to make all your decisions by your head, because you will take something that you shouldn't have, or you'll walk away from something that you should be leading. And so my confidence is just knowing that you are inviting prayer of others, seeking the guidance of the Holy Spirit. And we've got to be prepared because that's honestly where many organizations are.
Yeah.
And that's why there's been such a pause around DEIs, because many of them actually were more comfortable sort of with the status quo. My week, Tommy, I had a great week. It was an exciting week, working on a number of proposals. And the other thing that I had happened, I had a sort of a bout with vertigo.
Okay.
Where I was just a couple of days ago, I was, I thought I was dreaming that I was having this sort of room spinning sort of experience. And so I woke up and I was like, whoa, man, that was crazy dream. And then all of a sudden, vertigo hit me. So now I'm consciously awake. And it is very scary when you are a person that does not like to be out of control.
Yeah.
That's why I never drank, smoked, got high.
Yeah.
I was never wanting to be out of control. And so when you're going through an experience like that, you feel a sense of being out of control. And, I think that's why we need to have strong faith in God, because in the world that we live in, you're not always going to be able to control everything.
Right.
But if you have a lifeline connected to our Father, then you have the help and the support that you need to make it through situations that feel like they're spinning.
Yeah, Eric, and you talked about, that lifeline, that connection to God and being in control. Can you talk a little bit more about, what happens to you or me or anyone else where that the control of what we do control, what is real, what we know is real, is so disconnected to what's happening. Again, I am currently sitting in a space from a political landscape perspective, from an attack on DEI perspective, that my reality and what I can control and what I know is very different than what's happening.
Right.
I am in a cloud of confusion.
Right.
And I'm yelling in my unconsciousness to wake up out of this nightmare. Right. Or it could be a dream. And I wake up and I don't know. It's just a lot. It's just a lot going on. Can you talk a little bit about that?
That's a good question. Certainly don't know. I'm convinced. I'm confident that I don't have the answer for every specific encounter that we will experience. But I'll go here, and then I'll come back to the question. I think about P. Diddy right now.
Yeah.
All the money in the world. And for many people, they sit back, and if their finances are up and down and they're in this economy struggling, they look at somebody like that who seems to have everything, all the houses, all the cars, all the fame. And you can look at that life and say, my life would be so much happier if I had that life. And then you look at where, if you don't have purpose, if you don't have your character working, you can be in a complete mess.
Mhm.
Very few people would trade their lives with Diddy right now. And so I say that the first thing that we have to do is, no matter what our circumstance looks like, be grateful for the simplicity of where you are. And you've got to sort of tamp down our desire to have more certainty, more, dependability, more consistency. And we have to really be grateful for the hand that we have. So that's the first thing I have to do. I say, well,
Wow.
I got a good hand. Don't let anything throw me off or make me uneasy with the good hand that I have. And then the other thing is that when you are confident that your steps are ordered by God, then you just simply have to have the patience to see it through. And I can say that easier than I can live it. I know that both Tommy and I would like a lot more predictability.
Yes.
Would like to, but this is I love this part. We had a conversation yesterday, and we were talking about the notion of being able to scale our businesses. And the problem of being perfectionists and people that are really focused on trying to deliver their very best and who have been good at that is that if you're not careful, you don't have the other set of skills that it takes to scale at a huge level. Because I think that's going to mean you cannot be responsible for doing all the things necessary if you're going to scale.
Right.
You actually have to duplicate yourself or other people that are like you or have complementary skills. And you got to turn some things over to people, and then you got to do your lane.
Yeah.
But man, when you've been doing it like we've been doing it, and you've been we get evaluated all the time.
Right.
So here we go. Evaluation. Tommy, 5 of all 5s. Wow, you're amazing.
Yeah.
You send somebody else, they get it. 4, 3, 5, 4, 4. Hold on. We can't survive with 4s and 3s.
Yep.
Out of the way. We go back. 5, 5, 5, 4. And the thing is, if you're not identifying and developing people who have great talent, comparable talent, different talent, then you're not going to be able to grow to the level that you want to grow to. And so we were just laughing about how we want to be big, but little got us. I'm trying to scale to be huge, but no, only the things that I can touch. I got to see them. I got to evaluate them. I got to judge them. I got to make it plain and integrity stamp of approval on it. Well, if you got to touch everything, bro, you can't go very far.
You go as far as you can touch. As far as you can reach.
Okay, I got one hand on one thing and a foot on this thing and the other foot on that thing. I'm stuck. We're trying to grow. What is other stuff over there? What? No. I can't move. That's where we are. So it's funny, but God is going to teach us, because what God is saying to us in our lives is you've got to let go. You got to let go. If you want to be all that I need you to be, you're going to have to let go and let God.
Yep.
And so for control guys like us,
Yep.
that's a hard thing to do. We wouldn't say it out loud, but that is who we are. And it's not out of a conscious controlling thing.
Right.
It's out of a genuine desire to deliver excellence.
Absolutely.
That's really what it is. It's less about control. It's more about excellence. And it's then not having all of the skill set to take what we know and what we do and be able to replicate that and inspire that in others. So that's the thing that we're looking for.
This is good word, Eric. And so the community is saying, How do you know when is a good opportunity? If I go back to this
Good question.
opportunity that may be available for me in Colorado, my mind is saying it's going to be a challenge. My body and my spirit says it's going to be a challenge. I'm connecting those two as if the challenge is like a Super Bowl. It's a championship game. It is an opportunity that has presented itself before I have seen it, right? I see it as a good opportunity because I'm looking at it as an opportunity that I will not fail. I will only learn or exceed their expectations.
Right.
Right. I know that I can bring, and my team can bring some different skills and experiences, even in their lane of 90% saying status quo. Let's take a look at that status quo and unpack it. How did you get to the status quo? As a school district, did you start this status quo 50 years ago? Short answer, no. We were very different 50 years ago than now. So my focus, as I'm thinking it through, is how can I help them understand their evolution to now, where they're comfortable? That is the good opportunity to allow people to see the greatness in themselves. Right? Not someone, this outsider coming in, trying to change them, trying to move them into a future that they don't want.
Right.
Because the African proverb, Eric, is a person convinced against their will is of the same opinion still.
Right.
We're not trying to convince them against their will. We're trying to walk with them on their journey. And so that's the greatest opportunity. And because there are a small group of folks that have reached out to say, hey, we would like to engage you, make it plain, possibly the 10%. If God has his way, which he always does, and I obey.
Right.
Right. And I obey.
Right.
That I don't want to interject myself too much of
Right.
ego and pride.
That's right.
Just allow me to be a vessel, allow us to be a vessel. There are people who want to experience people like us. Hope, intellect, humor, strategic thinking, transformative, culture making. There are people who want to experience that. And that in and of itself is the opportunity, is the growth. So then when we move away from said market, we have those relationships with those people that maybe later on down the road we say, hey, you mind doing some subcontracting work with the company? Or later on, we're growing our footprint in your market. What does that look like for you? Like, oh, I've been going to this conference, I've been learning this, I'm ready. Let's go through a process.
Right.
Bring you on board. Again, reaching out beyond, touching beyond our reach. Right. And thank you for allowing me just to think through this, because something with integrity development, and make it plain, something big is going to happen.
Absolutely. Now, and so what has to happen is too often people get discouraged that it's not here now and they stop preparing. You got to be preparing, because when God lands it on your front lawn, and now you say, what? You landing it now? I need three, 4 years.
I'm not ready.
Right. And God is saying, get ready and trust me. And so I would say, just like there are many people in this country who have turned over their dependence on Trump, many people that believe in God, they got tired of waiting on a God they couldn't see. So they said, I'm going to depend on Trump.
Oh my goodness.
And so if we're not careful, we start depending on other things other than our faith in God. I want to do something now today, Tommy, and I want to talk to you about success and how people can define success in their lives. We want to talk a little bit about that. Before doing that, Tommy, I do want to mention that one of the most profound and moving things that I saw this week was Liz Cheney and Kamala Harris giving a speech together. Liz Cheney, for those of you that don't know her, she's been a major leader within the Republican Party for all of her life. Her father was the notorious Dick Cheney, who was vice president to George W. Bush. And both of them have decided to not only not vote for Donald Trump, but they're going to vote for Kamala Harris. And so I watched Liz Cheney give her speech before Kamala gave hers. And Tommy, I was literally crying.
Yeah.
It's a speech for the ages. I've never seen anything like that, where someone has said, let me tell you who I am. I'm a staunch conservative. I am in the spirit of Ronald Reagan, and she's said, and none of that has changed. She said, but I believe that former President Donald Trump is such an existential threat to democracy that I have no choice but to throw my support behind Kamala Harris. We do not have to agree on policy, but we do agree on the importance of a free and fair elections. And she said that Donald Trump is unfit. And then she talked about the lack of empathy that he has. And she talked about the things that happened on January 6th. And when they came to Donald Trump and they placed a note in front of him that said, we just got calls from Mike Pence and he's under threat. They had to take him from his office to a bunker. And he sat back and said, that's fine. And so when I saw that, Tommy, it made me believe again in patriotism.
Mm-hmm.
It made me believe again in the character of people, because if we watch politicians, Tommy, we could almost get to a place where we just don't believe anybody cares at all. It's all just a show.
Right.
And to watch her say that, and to watch Kamala come back and then talk about, and Liz Cheney said that, I believe that young girls in our society may also get hope by watching you. I'm just blown away.
I thought it was phenomenal as well. We're at a very pivotal time in this country, if not around the world. Elections happen every 2, 4, 6, 8 years. They happen regularly, but then you have those monumental moments. There are some folks out there that say that this is one of the most significant elections since the United States Civil War, right? And there was a common theme there. Folks want to try to change history, but history is what it is. And this country and this world will experience history. Everything will not be fixed with either party, Eric. It won't be fixed. However, we have to ask the question around character. And you've mentioned that a number of times, Eric, and I am completely bought into that character. When you have someone like a Liz Cheney, who will stand in front of the American people and say two things. One, here's my political views and stands, which is not changing.
That's right.
Right?
I'm conservative.
That's it.
And then she defined it.
Yep.
Small government, not getting in your lives, a strong defense, strength keeps peace through strength, economic frugalness. I mean, she just really laid out what it means to be a conservative.
Then as a person, the character of a person to be in the leadership role of any party, any organization, any community, whatever, the character of the person, I cannot stand by and support the character of this person. Still my political views and stands, my beliefs and values. One value is this is wrong.
That's right.
So are we going to stand on right and righteousness, or lean toward wrong and evilness?
Out of policy and personal and identity interests.
Yeah, absolutely. we have to think about that. And so I thought it was monumental. I think that people are going to show, as we all are, our true colors, be it public or private.
Mhm.
There's a lot of folks who are privately either afraid to be public, right? And
Right,
rightfully
right,
so,
right. I get that.
or privately smiling, maybe shaking hands, patting backs, and going a different direction.
Right,
That's counterproductive to what they say and maybe even do.
right.
And so we have to get ready for that. But the other thing is, very quickly, is that uh, I cannot, Eric, believe that people believe in bold-faced lies.
Right.
It
Right.
is when you
Right.
look through your lens of integrity,
Right.
faith, and character, and you can hear and see the opposite.
Right.
What is it about you that would say, I care less about what I see and do?
Right.
I'm going to go with it anyway.
Right.
Right. Again,
That's what gets my stomach turning over and over again.
Yeah.
So I'm not as discouraged about the liar.
Okay.
I'm discouraged that somehow you compromised your values to buy that.
Mhm.
And it saddens me, really. I mean, it saddens me.
Yeah.
Because,
Me too.
I'm not mad at you.
Right.
I'm hurt that you somehow have bought into the rhetoric that says that I'm going to side with this person out of political interest.
Mhm.
And so, but here's the thing that Tommy and I are saying: that God has us no matter what.
Indeed.
And that's also the moral of the story. But Tommy, I want to pivot a bit to 7 ways people can define success in their lives, because I think all of us are faced with this question right now: is how do we in fact define success? And so I'm going to mention a couple and then ask you to weigh in on Tommy. Certainly one way you can define success is career achievement, reaching certain milestones, gaining recognition in a field, financial stability, or making an impact through your work is one way to define success. A second way is personal happiness and fulfillment, finding joy and satisfaction in everyday life, pursuing passions, hobbies, and living a lifestyle that aligns with your personal values. So, Tommy, let's look at the first 2.
Yeah.
And why don't you give me your reaction to career achievement versus personal happiness and fulfillment? Are those mutually exclusive? Can they live together?
Yeah, I think they can live together. As I was listening to you share that, Eric, my mind immediately went to my athletic background.
Mm-hmm.
So as an athlete, the common goal and interest is to win, right? The achievement of success is winning. Now, those who play sports, they enjoy the sport that they play. Win or lose, they're playing the sport, but winning is the achievement.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes winning, achieving that goal is due to your performance, your plan, your execution of your plan and game plan, if you will. Sometimes, Eric, achieving that goal is because the opposition or the competition faltered or did not perform as well.
Mm-hmm.
So when we look at careers, I'm happy that I am able to have a career.
Right. First, let's start
Yeah. And so I'm happy about that. That's not necessarily my personal happiness. That's my career happiness. Right.
Okay.
And then I've also learned that I've had a plan career-wise that I've executed, had more victories than losses.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are some competitors, some people who may have been a barrier to my own career success that have then transitioned to give me a window to get in.
Mm-hmm.
Because even from a career perspective, everyone doesn't stay in their job forever.
Right.
People leave. And so I have, achieved career success, personal happiness and fulfillment. I think it can live amongst, all of these 7 ways. But I think that personal happiness is, I think it's very subjective,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think it's very personal. I have found myself being very happy in the process toward solution.
Mm-hmm.
Athletically, I felt very happy training and practicing for the game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't always remember the game.
Right.
I don't always remember the event at work,
Right.
but it was the buildup, it was the meetings, it was the discussions, it was the planning,
Right.
and then get to the moment. What happened? Yeah, we launched it. Oh,
Right.
we launched it. Okay. Is there anything else we're going to do?
Right.
Because it took us 6 months to plan for this one day launch.
Mm-hmm.
And so my happiness again and fulfillment is, again, finding joy in life, finding joy in the pursuit of those passions. I like what it reads there, as well as living a lifestyle that is aligned with those personal values.
Right. And so career achievement, reaching certain milestones, we've both done that. Gaining recognition in the field, we've both done that. Financial stability, man, that's always something that is coming and going, but we have a lot of control over that.
Yeah.
We choose to live financially however we want.
Right.
That's the issue there. It's got nothing to do with the money we make.
No.
Nah, it ain't at all. And then making an impact through your work. Those are things that we experience, and they are things that the world and we certainly define as success. Finding joy and satisfaction in everyday life. And so I'm going to encourage people to lean more there to make sure that you are finding joy and satisfaction in every day. And that's what, when Tommy says, I'm tired, his body's saying we need more personal satisfaction in gaining rest and not just being busy doing this first one. Hobbies, Tommy and I play golf, and that gives us a lot of joy, and living a lifestyle that aligns with our personal values. 3 and 4, ways that people can define success: financial freedom, achieving financial security, having the ability to afford desired experiences, and being free from debt or financial stress. And then the counterbalance to that is relationships and connections, building strong, healthy, and meaningful relationships with family, friends, and the community, or being a supportive partner, parent, or friend. Once again, Tommy, it looks like we got 2 things that sort of are not opposites, but they're kind of counterbalances. Say something about financial freedom, why that's important. What does that mean?
So some of us, myself included, myself specifically, have to learn to live within our means.
Yep.
And so financial freedom is, you can have all the money in the world, as you refer to P. Diddy,
Right.
and have a lifestyle that you can financially afford, but you have an alternative lifestyle that you don't have enough money in the world to be free.
Right. And let me interrupt that for just a second to say this, because the media is constantly blinging something in our face that says you don't have enough stuff. And so what about this? What about this? What about this? You want this? Eat ice cream every day. And so we're constantly being overrun by things saying, get me, get me, get me.
Right. That's exactly where I was going. Right. Get me. And I've fallen, hook, line, and sinker. I had to get it. Right. Had to get it. And there was some emotional response to that, etc.
Yep.
But financial freedom, ultimately, from my view, is not having the concern or care to financially address needs and wants. Not having that care. to address it. Right. So when I look at my debt, I have house debt,
Mm-hmm.
I have some other business debts, things like that. In my mind, that's good debt.
Right.
Good debt, because I'm learning that I can get more credit or more debt that I can pay down, right, financially, but it's freeing, right, that my business with certain access to capital is freeing. I have the opportunity for scalability, for growth, etc. And so it's not necessarily mentally, it's not binding. That debt is not binding. However, my personal debt, say if it's a school loan that's 30 years old, right? Say if it's a personal credit card or credit cards that I have mentally said, I'll pay this down as I can, and it continues to increase. My mind, Eric, on that debt is binding. I'm not financially free.
Right.
So first is mental, then it's actually monetarily. And so for me, financial freedom, and it's kind of a smile frown type of deal.
Right. And so let me weigh in, because you answered this for me.
Yeah.
And with an answer that I've never, ever contemplated till this moment. That's what happens with Tommy and I on the show. That he'll say some things that unlock something that I never, ever really thought about. I've only thought about financial freedom from a standpoint of having so much money that you no longer have to work.
Mhm.
That money is no longer an issue for you.
Yeah.
And so I was always thinking about that in terms of great, great wealth that is beyond my capability to spend. You chased it with, it doesn't really matter how much money you have. You can spend it all.
Yeah.
You can gamble it away. You can actually lose it all. I mean, billions.
Yep.
But what you said then, you said it's living within your means. And I would add to that, living underneath your means.
Yeah.
That financial freedom comes when you no longer have to spend for the things of life, that you're living within or underneath your means, because you are no longer trying to bring dopamine to your brain through things that can be bought with money. And so I'm going to suggest that is the opportunity, community, for all of us, is to think about financial freedom, that as you think about achieving success there, that it really means reining in the impulses that you have to spend money on things that you don't really need and your flesh simply desires.
You have to be critical on yourself to discern what you want and what you need.
Right.
In other words, you have to tell yourself the truth, Eric, because there are certain things that we want that our mind will manipulate our emotions at the same time to go and purchase or procure that what we want. It will call it a need, right?
Right. I got it.
I need the jacket.
Right.
Right. I do. It's wintertime or whatever season. I need that jacket. It's a nice jacket. And in fact, it's on 80% discount. It's doable. It's going to cost me $50 for that jacket. It's a $250 jacket. I need it.
Right.
The other side of that is I've said that 4 times this month. So in my closet, I have 3 other jackets that I bought. And I'm duped. I've been had by my own brain, by my own emotions, like I need to get this one. Again, I'm a victim of that. I have shoes, right? I have shoes and I need to get 2 pairs of brown shoes. Now a 3rd pair, okay? Because obviously you didn't know, nobody knows this, but I have 6 pairs of feet, right? I can wear multiple pairs of shoes at the same time.
Right.
I just know people who live under their means.
Right.
And to each their own.
Right.
But as we're talking about financial freedom, if you know that there is some expenditure, debt, bill in your life that you have to worry about, you're not financially free.
That's right.
You should be freed of that worry, of that concern.
So as we look at relationships and connections, building strong, healthy, and meaningful relationships with family, friends, and community, or being a supportive partner, parent, or friend. So I'll start by saying I just had a conversation with Terry Cooley, and then Tommy and I just had a conversation yesterday. I remember my grandmother said to me all my life, Eric, count yourself fortunate if you have more than one or two good friends in your entire life. I thought my grandmother was crazy.
Yeah.
I said, Grandma, I remember being in middle school. I don't have way more friends than one or two. I mean, that don't make no sense to me at all. I got friends, all kinds of friends. She said, no. And I said this to Terry, and I've said this to you, that I'm so grateful to have these two powerfully strong relationships, and with LG Wise, that are people that I love, that I care deeply about, that I have built that strong, healthy, meaningful relationship, because it feels like then every day is covered, you're supported,
Right.
and it's Christmas. Because when you have people that love you and you love them, that's a blessing, and it's a rare thing. And so the stressors that you and I get is from all the hateration and all the negative stuff that exists out there. But the blessing that we have is to have a few meaningful relationships that you can trust that that person is for you.
I would agree. I don't know many people who prefer extreme solitude.
Right.
Right. There are people that do,
Right.
but I don't know them, or I don't know that that's the case with them. With relationships, Eric, I believe that they're incredibly fulfilling
Mhm.
when they have shown themselves as being true.
Right.
Right. It's a eureka moment.
Mhm.
Right. This is what the God and children of God relationship is. It is that connection of things that are unforeseen, maybe not seeable in the present, but it is, as the Egyptians called God, the happening. The ancient Egyptians called the Most High the happening. With relationships and connections, it is the happening that happens.
Mhm.
Where did this come from? How does it happen? Because if we do a little social experiment, we can study how people gravitate to one another, connect those relationships, build those relationships, and how and what rejects people from one another.
Yep.
There's a lot of moving ships in our life, and some of them are ships that just pass by.
Let me ask you this question, Tommy. Uh, so I've got 4 children who I love to death, unquestionably, and I know they love me to death, unquestionably. But if I were to be completely honest, I would have to say to you that I don't really take time to think strategically and specifically about how do I take each of those relationships to a deeper level.
Hmm.
And my question is, do you think about it like that in terms of intentionality? And what would be different if we were to be a lot more consciously intentional about deepening those relationships?
Yeah, Erica, great question. For me, my short answer is yes. I do make intentional efforts to customize and individualize relationships that I have
Mhm.
with you, with my wife, with certain other friends. I'm very intentional.
Mhm.
With other relationships that I do have, if I allow life itself to happen,
Mm-hmm.
I focus on life happening rather than the intentionality of working on
Mhm.
that relationship.
Right. Mm.
And so, in my retrospect and reflection, if you look at your relationship with your children, your children, but they're adults. If you look at them over the span of their individual lives, I would recommend and suggest that you take a look at some kind of pivotal moments in your relationship with each of them, going back to when they were born,
Mm.
and seeing if there is some consistency with those type of pivotal moments. In other words, you go back to when they were born, at 2 years old, there was an engagement there. 4 years old, that's more intentionality because they're absolutely dependent.
Mhm.
Then they move into their young adult age, make teenagers, young adults, and that those moments may be further and further apart, but you're still intentional. Now you're asking, all right, can I make another pivot?
Right.
Short answer is yes.
Right.
Even if it's been 5 or 6 or 10 years since the
Mhm.
last pivotal relationship event.
Mm-hmm.
I believe, as I look at my relationships, that, and because of my personality is that if I've been dealt wrong, I, I just separate myself.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I have people in my family,
Right.
I just distance myself a little bit. It's not that I don't love, I don't care, but I just pivot my attention over here.
Mm-hmm.
But if I want that relationship to get better and not stay the status quo or get worse, I have to pivot back to them and make the intentional effort to put that bookmark of, this is the moment of love,
Mm-hmm.
right? This is the drop, this is the pebble in the ocean that I can then watch the ripples. So I am fairly intentional. And as I'm thinking out loud too, I think I'm intentional in the effort that I am because there are other opportunities, Eric, that I could have relationships that I simply choose not to.
Right. Exactly. No
Right?
doubt about
Not
that
to.
part. I would say that for me, uh, we kind of do what we've seen.
Mm. Okay.
And so what I saw was I knew both my parents loved me.
Mhm.
And my father spent time with me.
Yeah.
And so those were the things that let me know that I was loved and how he brought me into things. And I would say that that's probably how I've demonstrated love.
Mhm.
Everybody in my family knows that I will kill a person over them. So
Yeah.
they know that daddy is all in.
Yeah.
If I need anything, if anything's about to jump off, he's a complete lion over me. I'm that important to him.
Yeah.
By the same token, I've said I love you, so I use that language, which my father didn't always use. But I think that there's a loner in me too, Tommy,
I agree.
that
I agree.
that kind of can go in and and spend some of my best time appreciating being alone.
Mhm.
And I'd like to be. I just wrote down for myself, what do I need to do differently to improve our relationship and for us to have the kind of relationship that you're interested in. So I'm going to ask each of my kids that.
I think that'll be a great question, Eric. And you triggered another thought for me. Uh, just a quick change, very quick, that sometimes in the arc of life, some cultures, when we get down to the end of life, and there's a passing of an individual, some cultures will bring meals, some flowers, some will bring their condolences, etc. In another culture, people show up maybe with dish,
Mhm.
but presence.
Right.
They don't say anything until the person who's needing the assistance, who's needing the love, the care, until they say something. They literally have a room full of people,
Right.
and people are quiet.
Right.
So there may be an opportunity here as you connect with your individual children, as I'm going to connect with Bryce as well, that your intentionality to build the relationship as they need it may be simply being present,
Mhm.
right? Present on their time.
Right.
So being present on our time, that's kind of the
Right.
force feed, right?
Right.
And so being present literally in energy, not in the verbal communication,
Right.
right? Just all right, because I believe that in a relationship, both parties are trying to figure it out.
Mhm. That's good.
So your children may say, I'm trying to understand what our relationship is now as
Right.
well.
Right.
You poured into me a lot.
Right.
I have those tools. I have the knowing of your love and the power of your love, the lion. But I'm a cub that's now come of age and I'm trying to reach out. But I want to make sure that when I look back, right, the lion is still there.
Right. Right.
Not the roar, right, but
Right.
the lion. And I know we're using a lot of analogies, etc. But this question really has me thinking,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, because the other thing that I've seen is that this next generation is not built with exactly the same things that you and I have.
Indeed.
Some of those better, some of those not as strong.
Yeah.
But I am fearful at times that they look at me and assume that I have answers, that my life is pretty certain, that I get up with the energy and the confidence to go hunt and kill and make things happen.
Eric,
They don't see me as having fear around that, and yet they are very fearful
Mhm.
about whether they can do that. And so I think that my life can at times stand as a symbol of failure
Yeah.
if they don't approach it in the way that they think I approach it.
Because I think that as children, we absorb information about our parents in multiple ways.
Mm-hmm.
One is verbally, is what they tell us.
Mm-hmm.
So we know what they tell us, no matter what it is,
Right.
right? And then we're learning through what we see. So sometimes what they tell us verbally and what we see non-verbally, it matches. Sometimes it doesn't
Right.
match.
That's good.
And then it's God, our energy, spirit speaking through us to hear them.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So with all that being said, as I was listening to you and thinking of my own father, shrewd man, all that good stuff, a strategic person,
Mm-hmm.
thinker,
Mm-hmm.
deep thinker, serious. That's what I knew of him.
Right.
When I got older, particularly after he passed, and I was engaging more with his friends, who are now my fathers,
Right.
that they did not know him like that. He was happy, he was thoughtful,
Right.
he was silly.
Right.
I never knew him like that.
Right.
Now, well, before my father passed, and he had acquired cancer, he took a photo of a couple of days after he had learned from his physician that he had cancer and he only had about 3 to 6 months to live. He took a photo and shared copies with my sister, mother, and all that good stuff. And in that photo, he had watery eyes, which was unusual. After sharing that photo and he shared with the family, here's the situation, my father became lighter, right? So my connection and relationship with him changed over this event,
Right.
where he was like his friends knew him.
Right.
And I really believe that at the end of the day, there with my father, with our fathers, with you and us as fathers and our children, that our mind, speech, and energy is driven by our current time.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be selfish because we're only doing it through us.
Mm-hmm.
But you just mentioned talking to your kids independently.
Right.
What do they want? Because I think independently they will say, Daddy, you told me this year in, year out, over many, many years. I've seen you. And even what I've seen, unbeknownst to you, I've elevated you.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you can tell me I failed.
Right.
Okay, but I've seen you succeed
Right.
over the failure.
Right.
So I'm not going to focus on the failure. I'm going to focus on the example,
Right.
the model behavior of success. And we're talking about success, good grief,
Right.
success. So what's the disconnect? The disconnect may be personally, Daddy, I don't feel like I can behave that way.
Right.
I don't even talk that way.
Right. And I'm scared.
And I'm scared I don't know.
I'm scared. Like what you told me yesterday. And when you said it yesterday, I said, that's just not language. So I've learned more how to say it because I've appreciated you saying it. But that's a gap then in my relationships with all of my children.
Indeed.
And what it doesn't do, it doesn't then provide them with the permission structure to expose to me all of their thoughts.
Right.
Because they don't want to disappoint. Well, community, we have really wandered into something that will be profound for us, our children as they see this, and our grandchildren as they see this. And I'm glad that God gave us the wisdom and the space and the opportunity to talk about what success really means. Tommy, I'll let you close us out, man.
So we talked about success and what it means today. We have many other topics to talk about. We invite our community to share what you would like to talk about in this diversity conversations. It's always an honor to come together each Saturday at this time, no matter where you are in this country, in this world. We invite you to join us for another episode of Diversity Conversations. Take care of yourselves and each other.
Take care.
Bye now.